This is the second piece about white supremacy. American history for a black man is crime, tragedy, terror, suffering, rage, deep distrust, on, a litany of loss, grief, and pain. American history for a white man is work, study, triumph, and possibly some degree of shame. And those histories are the same, intertwined. Black history is fairly easy to apprehend, but so difficult, if not impossible, to suggest a cure. And that's cure, not solve, because racism, white supremacy, is a sickness, not a problem. The author of this book, 8 Years in Power, is not a sulfur-tongued preacher in a pulpit on a street corner tearing into the terrible transgressions of the white devil. This is more sober, more like listening to a lawyer building his case, and in this case there is absolutely no doubt, not even that famous shadow, of the guilt of the defendant, the white man. Slavery, lynching, burning, Jim Crow, terrorism, segregation, repression, plunder, guilty, 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 guilty. He makes a case for reparations, and the only case I can think of against reparations is that there isn't enough of anything, money, goods, property, land, to compensate for what was done to millions of people for hundreds of years. It was a Holocaust, and the author walks the white man down the main street of his own town in the pages of the Atlantic Monthly magazine, and the white man is covered with slime and shit and filth and tar and feathers. What it comes down to, as it did when I was reading the book Unbroken and The Painted Bird, is having to accept the capacity for base, hideous, inhuman, I want to say, behavior by ordinary human beings. I'm try collecting reparations on that. Okay, Machiavellians, might makes right, that's for sure. Power prevails. So if you're a black person, naturally you start thinking about black power, doing a little prevailing of your own. And it's exciting. It's exhilarating. The author writes the defiance of the force of whiteness is freedom. But black power isn't going to win. It isn't going to beat white power. It will lose and will look bad doing it. But there is a way to beat white power, and it isn't nonviolence, marching in peaceful protest. That won't win either. All you have to do is step back and show that long, horrible history of white power, that walk down Main Street, and you keep it up. You keep doing it until it sickens even the most avid proponents of white power. You reveal the horror, the nightmare of American history, out of which the cherished American dream was born, and you do this until the ones who stand at the edge of it now are helpless to defend it. You hold a mirror up to them, and looking into it, seeing themselves as they were, as they are, this was James Baldwin's dream. They melt away, and you win, but you did not defeat white power. White power destroyed itself. The author goes on to lament what he calls the great maw of the gray wastes, the mass incarceration of blacks. And he reveres Obama, compliments him, his wife, his children, his choices, in nearly every possible way, even when he disagrees ever so slightly with a particular policy. Just as he thinks Obama was one of the greatest presidents, on a par with Lincoln, so he detests Donald Trump, whom he calls the first white president, elected solely as a response, a knee-jerk reaction to 8 years of being led by a black man, a final gasp of misguided white supremacy. Trump is something to behold. He's a blowhard, a buffoon, a bully, and he's a danger, and he's white. His election was stunning, is stunning, and will continue to stun, to whatever end it comes. If history zigs and zags, the ongoing dialect of thesis, antithesis, and new thesis, the swings of the pendulum, that pendulum is now swinging out so wildly that it may fly off the track. You can never predict the future, but now there is an immediacy to that feeling, the uncertainty of everything, as if we're hurtling out of control at high speed. And black people, after 8 years in power, for the moment, have been swept aside once more. They know that feeling. That doesn't make it any easier to bear.